Welcome to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. And now, here's your host, Wade T. Lightheart.
What if you could double your energy naturally without caffeine or stimulants in just 3 short months? It's not only possible, you can transform every aspect of your health if you follow the 12-week blueprint we've created for you in the Awesome Health System. The Awesome Health System is a free course where you receive a daily video lesson spanning the most cutting-edge secrets for air, water, exercise, sunshine, optimizers, mindset, and education. It's something most companies would charge hundreds of dollars for, yet you get it for free when you go to bioptimizers.com. To access your course, register to download the PDF report called 3 Phases of Bioptimization, which gets you access to the report and daily access to the first lesson in the 12-week, 84-day Awesome Health course.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Wade T. Lightheart from Bioptimizers with a very special edition of the Awesome Health Podcast. Today I am joined by British bodybuilder Roger Snipes. And Roger and I have had the good fortune to meet many times. Usually I get over to UK once or twice a year and we get to hang out. We've also met down in Texas. And Roger is a phenomenal individual, and I'm really excited. I've been waiting for this conversation we were just talking previously, over a year. I've wanted to have this, and there's a couple reasons why. First off, you know, I'm one of those athletes that can make it to the world championships, and then I have to compete against guys like Roger. And we are in different fields of possibility and potential. He's got, I think, the best physique I've ever seen in the natural health bodybuilding world. It's absolutely what I would say the iconic representation of what's possible. And it's just truly magnificent. And he wears it so humbly. Which is interesting. But then I'll give you a little bit of background for Roger. He's a health and fitness wellness coach, got over 30 years experience in performance training and lifestyle optimization. He blends real-world coaching with functional health principles to help build strength, energy, and resilience. That's a cue that actually lasts. Now, here's what happened. Roger had a major health challenge where everything that he represented was put to the test. And his approach is to provide practical evidence, informed and refreshingly honest, which he also shares on his Roger Snipes show, his podcast. So real bodies, real life, real results, that is world. And Roger, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much. That's a beautiful introduction.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you know, I get the opportunity to meet a lot of people in my field, and I'm so grateful that I get to. And some people have what they say in the French language, the je ne sais quoi. There's a certain elemental soul magnetic power they have. You possess that. And I think what's really ironic in your case is you've just gone through a major health challenge that would debilitate most people, that you would say, okay, this, you know, we can talk about that in a second. And you don't look the part. Firstly, you don't look like a person that went through a major health challenge that would actually get involved in that and then come out of it. Those are two elements. So this is very unique. So let's go into, before we get into that, and I know I'm kind of leading it, but I want Roger to lead the dialogue on this particular element of his life because it's a sensitive topic. So let's talk about your background, your history, how you became a trainer, how you became a bodybuilding champion in the UK and world renowned for your information and what you've achieved physically, and then this big challenge that came up in your life.
Yeah, well, thanks again for that introduction. So I've been training for about 30 years, or just over 30 years now. And it first started for me when I was initially interested in sprinting. So I used to sprint as a kid. I just had this fascination with how I could increase my speed. So I started to read fitness magazines on ways that I could improve my strength and nutrition. So while I was sprinting, I started to see these incredible bodies in the magazines. I was like, wow, I didn't know sprinters could look like this. And I also saw bodybuilders with incredible bodies. But my initial interest at the time was just increasing my speed and just becoming really fit. And over the years of training, my body slowly started to transform. And yeah, the sprinting was kind of short-lived. It was only in the teenage era, and then I decided to leave it, but I wanted to continue with fitness. And that was when I slowly moved into just building the body to try and build a better physique. And it was until my 30s that I decided I was going to compete. It was only due to me being fed up of looking at fitness magazines and thinking, these guys look quite average. I think I look better than this. It was this, especially, like, I think the turning point for me was on the front cover of Men's Health, when I saw a guy who looked quite mediocre, and I thought to myself, if he could be on the front cover, surely I can. But I thought to myself, was I being a bit, I don't know, a bit too in myself, a bit too egotistical? And I spoke to a few friends, and they said, you definitely have a better physique than this guy. So I started to compete, and it turned out to be a success. You know, I started to win trophies, and I started off in Mr. UK in 2010. I won that, and then I won a small show called Mr. Britannia. I then moved to a popular natural bodybuilding federation called Muscle Mania, and I won a national show and a pro show, and end up getting a pro card, and then competed internationally and came top 10. I later found out that the guys in that competition were taking steroids. They were finding ways.
That was the part that I think a lot of people aren't aware, because in the early stages of the WMBF, the testing was essentially non-existent. So there was all kinds of guys. In fact, I knew a guy in Vancouver who was in that competition, and he was loaded to the gills. And I was like, dude, I'd never compete in that. That's like, it's not fair. And here you were, competitive with people who were on the sauce. And just for people to understand, there's no comparison in the physiques. There just isn't. But you're one of the people that somehow was able to even to do extremely well in that federation, competing against guys that were jacked. And I think that goes underreported, because, like, if I look at your physique today, a few years ago I was at the World Natural Bodybuilding Association, which is the INBA, is the amateur quality, and then you're at the World Natural Bodybuilding. I can share with you unequivocally, had you competed in that competition, you would have won first place, as you are right now. And believe me, the guy that won was extraordinary. I can get to the show. I show up, I get my, hey, you showed up card. There's levels to the game, right? And when you get into that top 10, then you get into the top 3, and then you get into that, like, people don't realize what it takes to be a world champion. It's in anything.
Yeah.
And you have a world champion physique even now in your 40s, which is truly remarkable, and it's a testament. I just wanted to highlight that for people. What you've been able to achieve is incredible. And what's really cool is you have that physique that is right on what I would call the edge of believability. So if you go into the pro side of the sport in the untested zone, people move into the mutant category where they're like, I impressive what they're done, but I'm not really interested in looking like that. I'm not interested in feeling that way or moving that way. It's a very disciplined. One of my friends, I have a number of friends who are pro bodybuilders in that world, including the reigning Miss Olympia, and wonderful people and all that stuff. But you're in that unique category where people go, is he really, is that guy natural or not? And that's really what I think the pinnacle is of physique development. And you're a representative of that. And so I just want to give you your flowers because I think that goes unreported. So let's continue on with your journey, but I didn't want to. You're a very humble guy, and there's no room for that here on the podcast.
Oh,
so.
God bless you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, that's really kind of you. You know, it taken me many years to get there, you know, training hard. I'd been accused over the years many times of being on some sort of compounds. And, you know, when you've been training natural forever, it can get really frustrating because you want to show the world what is possible. But if a lot of people don't believe you, it makes you question, well, if no one believes you, what is the truth then? Mm-hmm. What is the truth? So you find yourself like battling, trying to explain to people, trying to prove yourself. And it can feel a little bit discouraging because you want to show people hope, you know, allowing people to understand that you can build a great physique and just focus on building a great physique and focus on health without jabbing yourself with all these compounds. People are taking compounds just to walk around, not even to compete, which is wild to me.
It's a big. I was discussing this with the girl that works on. She does my genetic testing and all my hormones and all that sort of stuff, and we go through a deep dive every year. And we were just discussing this topic a few days ago. That if you look back 30 years ago, the only people who were doing compounds were hardcore bodybuilders and a few strongmen and things like that. And there was a public taboo around it. You know, you had the Barry Bonds issue, you had the Mark McGwire issue in baseball, you had the Tour de France issues with Lance Armstrong's, and the public decimation of these professional athletes who were using performance-enhancing substances, and everybody was on them. And then suddenly, out of the blue comes the anti-aging world, and young guys getting on TRT, and then anti-aging routines, and then peptides rolled in. And now I'm talking to people who are in their 20s, and they're like, oh yeah, what's my stack? And they're getting random things. I'm like, how did this change so quickly in 30 years about like, hey, let's get down to hard work, solid nutrition, basic, the fundamentals of living long and strong in life. And that's just been obliterated. Like, let's get there fast. Who cares about the repercussions and whatever? And I think that's going to have serious consequences for a lot of people because they're getting ahead of themselves without the foundational components.
Yeah, that's super important. The foundation. Like, I didn't really know about compounds until maybe my early 20s. I didn't even know it existed. And when I did question it. I was like, ooh, so this could fast track my results. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized, but then it's going to potentially damage my health. And the whole reason I got involved in this was for health. So I'm like, well, I can't do that then. I wasn't interested in natural bodybuilding at the time. I just wanted to be healthy, and drugs just didn't fit in that category. Whereas now I'll have kids that come up to me in the gym, maybe 17, sometimes 16, and they're overwhelmed with my physique. They're like, wow, you look incredible. What are you using? That's the first question.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is crazy. Like, you're a kid. Why are you asking that? So yeah, like, so with my competitive streak, I then moved I changed federation, and it was a federation that was more renowned for people who do use it, but at least you didn't have to have a really grotesquely huge physique, and there were cash prizes. It was called WBFF. It was quite popular back in the day, but when I looked at the physiques, it was like, okay, they're on stuff, but they don't look completely like unobtainable. So I competed against those people, and I still won a pro card with this federation, and then I've done an international show with this federation as well, came second in the worlds. And then after that I was like, do you know what, I think I'm done now. You know, I've done some shows, I've won some competitions, and it was kind of like an experience for me, and also a way of just, I guess, tapping into the fitness world so that people perhaps knew who I was, that I existed. Because at one stage, like, only my family and friends knew, you know? Mm-hmm. So I was able to obtain a little following from that. And I thought, okay, now these people follow me. I want people to understand it's possible to have a great physique without having to go for a competition. You can have like almost like a competitive physique, but just living a daily life. Just train good, eat good nutrition, and still keep the principles of bodybuilding in your life. And as I started to get older, I started to think, whilst I'm doing this, I want to focus on longevity as well. How do I do this whilst focusing on intracellular health and perhaps improving DNA and stopping breakdown and cellular damage and stuff like that? So, you know, I'd experiment with different biohacks to achieve it, and I still do to this day. In the end of 2024, with all the work that I'd been putting in, I was struck with a big surprise, and I ended up in hospital.
So what happened? So this is the where they play the down keys on the piano. They go do do do. What happened on the movie? So here's this, here's a world-class physique. You're known for you got a following. You're advocating for health. You're following all these principles. What happened?
So it was like, leading up to hospital, I'd been feeling this sensation in my lower back. I'd been feeling this pain. It started off with an acute pain, and it slowly got a bit more intense. And I thought to myself, perhaps it was from deadlifts, or perhaps it was from my bed. I was thinking, perhaps I need to change the mattress, because I've had it for a number of years now. I remember one time sleeping with 2 pillows for a few nights, and because my neck was in a crooked position, I started to get back pain. So I thought, perhaps it is the mattress. And I noticed there was a little dent in the mattress after some usage, not just sleeping, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I thought perhaps I need to change the mattress. And then one day when I was on holiday, I was overseas, I still got this back pain. So I thought, well, it can't be the mattress. But the pain got so intense that I end up just crawling out of bed and collapsing on the floor. Like, it was so painful. It didn't matter what position I went in. It was just intensifying. So I eventually called the hospital and went in, and they'd done a few external exams, pressing on my body, asking if I feel stuff. They were pressing in my lower back, but all of a sudden I couldn't feel anything. The strangest thing was they were pressing around my abdomen, but I would feel pain there. So they said we would suggest we do an ultrasound. So we went in the ultrasound room. They rubbed some gel on my stomach and started to scan away. But because the guy was there for a while, I was thinking, you obviously can't find anything. You're just trying to justify me having to pay for this. That was what was going on in my head. Because I'm like, why are you there for so long? If you found something, you would have told me by now. So I'm like, are we done yet? Because I just want to go home. I need to get some sleep so I could go gym tomorrow. That's all I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And it was quite late at the time when I went to hospital. I think it was like 11 or half 11 or something like that. So after the scan, I was asked, I then sat down with the person who was the radiologist. I don't know what you call those people. Can't remember. And I said, did you find anything? And He then showed me my organs. He said, like, you know, this is your, I don't know, your kidneys, your spleen or whatever. And he started going through it. And he said, do you see this big black circle right here? I said, yeah. He said, that shouldn't be there. It looks like a tumor. And I was like, a tumor? So it looks like a tumor. That's what I was thinking. Okay, fair enough.
Right.
So you don't know what it is then? And he said, I think it's a tumor, but you said it looked like a tumor. All right, I'll wait to hear from the doctor. And then when I stepped out, the doctor ran through the images and he said, it does look like a tumor. Like the possibilities are quite high, but we can only confirm if we do a CT scan. So I was a little reluctant to do a CT scan, I'm not going to lie, because I didn't want to pay for it. But I just ended up doing it anyway. And they said, yeah, it is like a high percentage that it is. But we've also noticed that you have blood clots in your aorta and several parts in your legs. And it looks pretty serious. I was like, blood clots? He said, yeah, have you experienced any fatigue at all recently, tiredness? And then as I started to scroll in the Rolodex of my brain, I realized that for the past couple of weeks when I went to the gym, I was feeling exhausted. I was like, actually, I have. Every time I go to the gym, I'm sitting down on a machine and I feel like I don't want to do anything. I feel tired before I've even started. And after I'd done 2 reps, my arms were burning. If I was doing chest press, arms. If I was doing legs, it would hurt intensely. And I was like, I couldn't figure out why. I was also going to bed at 5 o'clock in the early evening and waking up quite late and still feeling tired. And I couldn't see why that was. I was thinking maybe it's something to do with my diet. So I'm thinking about all these things. I'm like, maybe they're onto something. So I decided to take the tests further when I came back to UK. But first of all, I went to my GP and I had a blood test. And I said, I think I might need to go to the hospital. I was overseas and they believe it might be a tumor. So they said, if anything is found, then we'll give like an emergency referral to the hospital. They've done the blood test, and then I think within a couple of days I received a call from the GP and they said, we've checked your blood and it has extremely high inflammation markers. We'll send you to the hospital urgently. I went to the hospital, done another CT, and I was given a diagnosis, which later changed. So at first they said, we believe you have lymphoma. I was like, isn't that like cancer of the blood or something like that? They said, yeah, that's right. I was like, how's that possible? Like, I was like, wow. I don't even understand. And they came up with that assumption because I think it was my lymph was swollen behind my abdominal wall. So because of that, they said lymphoma. I had to spend time in the hospital. They mainly had concerns because of the blood clot. They said, if this snaps off, if it breaks and it travels to your brain, that's going to be a problem. Or if it goes to your heart, that's going to be a problem.
Stroke or heart attack right there.
Yeah. They wanted to avoid the words, but I was like, what? Are you saying death? And they were like, it could be fatal. I was like, right. Okay. Right.
Don't you love the softening of the words in these?
Yeah. Right? So I stayed in the hospital and I was just on a concoction of loads of drugs. And one day when I was in the hospital, they have a coffee shop. I was in the coffee shop and I was called back to the ward area because the doctor wanted to see me. And I said, like, why does the doctor want to see me? Because the reception called. They said, the doctor wants to do another scan. I was like, why? I've had like 6 scans. They know what it is. They said, yeah, but they want to do something different. I was like, what's different if they've seen everything? Well, they want to do an ultrasound on your testicles. I was like, okay, fair enough. So I went back up, and then I was like, why do you want to do an ultrasound on the testicles? And they said, well, it's because of the symptoms that you've been giving us. Every time we've asked you questions about symptoms related to lymphoma, you've always said no. But you've also mentioned that you're feeling sensitivity in your testicles. So we just want to double check. So went in the ultrasound room. They rubbed the gel on my testicles, started, the ultrasound. And then afterwards, they could find some tumor markers. So they pieced it together that the cancer has spread from the testicles to my abdominal wall. So what they call metastasized. The germ cell traveled to my abdominal wall, which was what was causing the pain. There was a swelling of a mass behind my abdominal wall, which was pressing on my kidneys, which was the reason why I was feeling the pain in my back. I was like, right, okay. So they then proceeded with the right treatment of a certain type of chemotherapy. That was one of the worst experiences I had in my life. I thought the pain which I got was so horrible. I can't explain how painful it was, but it was such an intense pain that I just couldn't reach it, couldn't do nothing about it, and it was so sharp. But when I had chemotherapy, I was like, okay, you win. I felt so sick. I felt horrible. I felt disorientated. I felt weak. I had blurred speech, couldn't speak to anyone. I felt like I just don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to speak to anyone. I don't want to move. And I also noticed that I lost my appetite. When I lost my appetite, I lost a lot of weight. But one thing I noticed was my sensitivity to smell just heightened or just got disfigured. When I smelled perfumes, it smelled like really intense. Like it smelled like someone was swimming in perfume or swimming in aftershave. Any smell that came in the room smelled so horrific. When I smelled food smelled like diarrhea. Like just smelling it, I was like, no, can't eat that. Like anything smelled disgusting. And it almost seemed like I was being offensive because every time nurses came in, I'd cover up my nose, like as if they stank, but I couldn't help it. Everything was smelling really bad.
Wow.
While I was on a hospital bed, they kept feeding me like, some drugs, and then I'd fall asleep, and then there's someone will wake me up. Oh, we need to take some blood. And then I'd go to sleep and then wake up, some more drugs, go sleep, wake up, here's some painkillers, here's some morphine. It was just like constantly drugs. I was like, this is insane. But I was so weak. I was like, I have not got the energy to argue with anyone. And the doctors kept asking me, like, have you been to the toilet? And I was like, no, I haven't. Maybe because I haven't been eating. So then they gave me some laxatives. So I had the laxatives. That still wasn't doing anything. They gave me some other laxatives. And I was going a little bit. And then I just decided to do like a little Google search on the drugs that I was taking. And I found out that the morphine that I was taking could cause constipation. I was like, this is basic stuff. Like, surely you guys could have told me this. Like, I was like, well, I'm not really feeling pain anymore because of the chemo. So maybe we can stop the morphine. So I suggested that to them. And they said, okay, if you start feeling the pain again, just let us know. And took out the morphine, and yeah, I then was able to go to the toilet. But again, it was intense. It was really intense.
What was it like coming off the morphine? Because that's a strong drug. Did you have any side effects from coming off it?
Actually, no. I just know that I was feeling quite warm when I had it. You know, I felt quite, don't know, kind of maybe a little bit happy, I guess. And then when I came off it, I think I was still feeling disorientated. But to be honest with you, I was just laying down most of the time. So it's like just trying to focus on maybe drinking water, because they kept telling me, please drink some water. And I just didn't even want to sit up out the bed. You know, I just wanted to lay down, and I wanted to sleep until like this whole episode was over. That's all I wanted. I was like, no, I just want to sleep. I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to sleep. Whenever the doctor came in and spoke to me, I'm like, yeah, okay. And can I just go sleep? That's all I wanted to do. So went off the morphine. I think I was okay by then in terms of pain, but yeah, I was still feeling sick and disorientated.
At Bioptimizers, our mission is to fix digestion. And a cornerstone of digestion is gut flora. P3OM is our patented probiotic formula. In fact, we call it the Navy SEALs of probiotics. You see, strong proteolytic or protein digesting activity is paramount to having a healthy gut flora. And of course, P3OM provides that. The good news is, unlike weaker probiotics, P3OM survives the digestion process. What it does is it basically multiplies the good guys while protecting you against pathogens, or what some people call the bad guys. P3OM really helps to rebuild your digestion. And what that allows you to do is to maximize nutrient uptake, energy, and metabolism. To find out more of how P3OM can help you, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
At any time during this process, were you contemplating like your own mortality, or like, is this going to take me out? Or did you maintain a positive, like what was going through your head during this whole the treatment procedure? Did they give you a timeline of what they anticipated? They were just going to use chemotherapy and get rid of it. Like what was their plan, and then what was going on internally in your head here? Because I think, you know, I've worked with a lot of people that's had cancer, and I find that there's a unique element that happens with cancer patients. And I think with a lot of people that are on life-threatening illnesses, and that is, I noticed this first when my sister was going through her cancer treatments before she died, is that there was kind of like a group of people that were what I call the lollipop gang. Like everything was going to be okay, and you know, everything was rosy, and she felt compelled to kind of play to that narrative. And yet I would be talking to her personally and saying, like, how you doing? Like, how you feeling about this, whatever. And, you know, she could kind of be a little bit more honest and a little bit more forthright about her fears and what was coming up for her, and anxieties, or, you know, frustrations, or what, you know, why me, all that sort of stuff. What was that like for you? Did you go through any of that stuff? Or did you have to maintain a front on one side and yet internally maybe not so sure? What was that like for you?
So I think I was always honest with myself and transparent with others as well. I wasn't trying to kid myself. It was an uncomfortable situation. But before I got in the hospital, when I learned that something was going on, and then they gave me the diagnosis, I was then thinking, okay, right, okay, God, this is weird. I've been speaking to you for many years now, and the plan was to be a centenarian, so I don't know where this fits in the plan, but I guess this is part of the journey. So I just was like, all right, I surrender myself to you, and I'm just going to go along with it. Just guide me along this, because I've never been sick before. You know, I'd never gone to the doctor, not normal GP. I'd gone to functional health doctors for stuff like, you know, optimizing health, but never about sickness. So this is new to me and I need guidance. So as I was there in the hospital and experiencing these things, I was like, damn. It kind of made me think about Jesus and obviously it's never as extreme as what he went through, but it was almost like he needed to go through all that suffering because that was his purpose. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I need to go through this suffering so that I can reach other people. Yeah. I can't just be reaching people that are already healthy and fit. I need to be able to reach others that maybe have lost hope. So I was going through all of this and I thought, okay, while I'm here at the hospital, I might as well document my journey and share it on Instagram as well. So I created a little community group just telling people I've got chemotherapy in a couple of days and this is how I'm feeling. These are the drugs is what I'm taking. And just taking people through everything that I was going through. And to be honest, it felt quite liberating, you know, sharing it with others. And also the feedback I was getting was showing me that it was extremely helpful for other people. So I was like, wow, this is actually useful. Me going through this is useful for other people. Mm-hmm. Because perhaps if someone else had gone through this, maybe they wouldn't make it. I even had a young man who messaged me. I can't remember how old he was, but he was going through testicular cancer as well, but he was on stage 3. And we had a discussion that when this is all over, we're going to do a podcast together. I recently found out that he didn't make it. And I was quite devastated about that, to be honest. I was like, we formed a connection and then we kind of lost a bit of contact because I was busy and, you know, he was going through his treatment. And it then made me feel so blessed, like really blessed. And people don't understand it. When people ask me, like, people say, oh my God, it's a dreadful experience. And I know it felt horrible, but I'm like, I don't think I went through anything compared to others. I met people who had cancer quite a few times, or it had metastasized and they had it in the liver, kidneys, in their skeletal, in their spine, and all types of stuff. And I'm like, I've got it easy, man. You know, or I had it easy. You know, while I was going through it, I just felt positive. I'm going to get through this, especially when I had blood work done. They're like, okay, your tumor markers are coming down. They said, we're going to assess in about 9 weeks to see whether we're going to put you on a different cycle of a different chemo. When 9 weeks came, they checked my blood and the tumor markers was gone. I was like, thank you, God. So I was like, that was like a crash course in sickness, you know?
Right?
9 weeks.
Did you do anything different, or did you alter your routine as you were going through that process? Like, how did that maybe refine your, because, you know, you're already known for, you know, using all of the biological optimization technology, paying attention to your diet. Like, you know, this is kind of your brand, right?
Yeah.
Did anything change when you were dealing with the cancer treatments?
So while I was in the hospital, they just kept feeding me drugs. And anytime I spoke to them about supplements, they were like, no, we can't have you take supplements because it might affect how the chemo is going to work. And we know the chemo works and we just don't want any interference. But when I was an outpatient from the hospital, I didn't listen to them, to be honest with you. I was like,
Yeah.
I ain't listening to you. So I know I had some different mushrooms, reishi. I was taking a lot of turkey tail, shiitake, maitake on a regular basis. I was then eating proper food, because the food in the hospital is devoid of nutrition. They don't care. They're like, as long as you are eating.
Well, that's the part that always struck me when I first was exposed to the hospital food. And I was like, okay, you talk about the great science technology that you are illustrating, or the cutting edge science that's supposed to be in your care. Meanwhile, you're serving people the absolute bottom of the barrel of nutrition. Where's the science behind that? And what you realize, the hospital's a business. And, you know, if we can cut the margins on the cost of the food and the care for the individual, we get a better margin on our hospital care. And I think that this is I would say, the dark side that most practitioners within the medical industry don't like to talk about, because they know it, they're aware of it, but they shut it all down, and they're not. And it's starting to change. It's starting to change, but it's still, for the most part, the general population has no idea. And I have friends that are cancer patients who I'm in contact with right now, and one of my policies is I never counsel the cancer patients of what they should do, what they shouldn't do, all that sort of stuff. I'm there for moral support and to support their decisions. If they ask or request, then I give what I say is some perspective on the health side. But I'm appalled by some of them in the choices that they're making during their journey through medical treatment of cancer. I'm like, your doctors, I'm thinking to myself, your doctor's not telling you shouldn't do this, or here's some things that you could be doing. There's plenty of research to support that would probably support your journey. And I feel bad, because there's millions of people that could probably have a better time with their cancer treatment or other medical treatments if they knew some of the things that you know. And maybe there's a gap there that you're going to fill in the future, about, hey, how do you
I'm
beat
hoping.
this thing? How do you beat this thing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm working closely with a charity called Macmillan at the moment. So I've been doing some campaigns with them on cancer awareness. The Government of Health has recently been in contact with me because they've been seeing my stuff on social media and love the message which I'm giving out about optimal health. So, it's something that I really want to do. I want to just to try to raise more awareness and hopefully some prevention as well. When I look at some of these cancer charities, like, they do these marathons and they do this awareness stuff, but I think more on like, okay, how do we prevent this? What are certain things that we could do to optimize our health? Why don't we do more of that? I see they're getting all this money in these charities. Okay, that's cool. Where's it going exactly? What are you doing with it? To do more campaigns on the awareness?
Well, I feel the same way. They used to have this thing, right? They said, "Run for the cure," and I used to facetiously say, I'd say, "Run from the cure," because it felt like they were just running towards the disease as opposed to getting ahead of it. And I think that's the difference between an athletic mindset, is that you're trying to stack the deck to hit an external or internal goal that is irrefutable in the public domain, and it's outside of the normal range of capacity. What I feel in the disease model is oftentimes they're making the assumption that we're trying to get back to where you started, but where you started was problematic to begin.
Right.
So you're trying to get back to the wrong pathway. And the long term, and when I was working with the American Anti-Cancer Institute for many years, one of the things that people would come in and chat with me, and as I say, I'm not here to give you medical advice, but what I can say is the cancer that you have is because of your genetics and your lifestyle that have triggered this event. So there's predetermining factors and there's things. So whether you go a conventional model, whether you go completely alternative, or you do some mix in the element, when you get on the other side of this situation, you're going to have to recognize that what you were doing maybe in the past or what was going on there needs upgraded for what you can do in the future.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what are some of the things that, having gone through this journey yourself, that you've experienced? Because, like I said, if walking down the street, you don't look like a cancer survivor. You know, it's just like I would think if cancer walked down the street and saw you, it would just turn around the other way and say, "No, I'm not messing with this dude." You know, that's the first impression. And you know, you kind of, and anybody that's been around cancer, you kind of see these the deleterious effects that happens to people. It's the treatment is, like as you said, it can be very challenging. You don't look like that. You're like the poster boy of health on the other side. What things have changed for you since you've gone through this? How has that affected your thinking, maybe your dietary process, your awareness? What have you noticed?
Ooh, so I would say the biggest change for me is probably focusing on the amount of stress that I handle. I think that was probably the most deteriorating thing that was going on in my life, because when you are handling lots of projects and you are going to bed quite late, waking up early, training intensely, back to work several hours, going to bed late, it's going to catch up. You know, it's not only physical stress, but there's a lot of psychological stress as well, which I was not balancing. You know, I wasn't really taking much time out to meditate, and sleep as well was not enough. And, you know, I was believing that I was superhuman and I could do it all. You know, at one stage I was, you know, intermittent fasting for 22 hours, eating one meal, but then I would cycle 10 miles a day and then go to the gym, train fasted, and then just like work several hours without eating and just eat one meal. Just thinking, you know what, this is easy, I could do this. Just to prove to myself, just to prove that I was superhuman, you know?
Yep.
Even if I felt fatigue, I'm like, I ain't got time for fatigue. Work needs to be done, you know?
Yeah.
And then eventually, you know, the body said, look, man, I've had enough, you know? And
that's a really great point, I think, with people who have achieved a certain level of excellence. There's an input factor that you need to rise up in any field, business, sports, you know, and education, career. Like you do have, there's Thomas Sowell is one of my favorite philosophers. I refer to him often. He's this like 95-year-old super genius guy in America who grew up in Harlem, went through all the education system, was a Marxist, and became a capitalist. And because it's a very interesting guy, and he writes these really unusual books that kind of disrupt the common dialogue. But one of his axioms is there's no solutions in life, there's only trade-offs. Wow. And Tom Brady, great example. 7 Super Bowls, lost his family to do it. Arnold Schwarzenegger, successful, you know, in his last book he talks about it. Successful bodybuilding, business, acting, and politics of four things. And he said, and I lost all the people and hurt all the people that I cared about the most. So that you know what I mean? Like he one of the icons that I looked up to. So there are trade-offs, and those trade-offs oftentimes you don't become aware of them until the bill comes due and it's unexpected. And you're kind of, that's kind of what you're illustrating here, if I heard you correctly. It's like, I look superhuman. I am superhuman. Of course I can do that. And I think there is a hustle culture out there that is really advocating this in the high performance side of the health optimization. You see it in the, what I call the biohacking community. And I always said I like biological optimization over biohacking, because hacking feels like a shortcut, and we don't know what those trade-offs are going to pile up over time. You know, and we're seeing just the explosion of, compounding of everything now.
Yeah.
And so first off, you don't necessarily know which thing's working. Second of all, you don't know what the trade-offs are going to be down the road. But everything has a trade-off. Everything, And,
so true.
So in those trade-offs, how do you see your life unfolding now that you've got new awareness? Like, hey, okay, I'm still kind of superhuman, but not. I'm moderating my superhumanness. Like, how do you look at that?
Yeah. So it's mainly helping others who might be going through similar things, to be honest with you. There's so many things I've learned throughout. Like, I've looked at the people in my life, like who are actually there for me. It's not until crisis happens in life until you realize those that are kind of stable in that situation and those that run around frantic. And I think COVID-19 was a great example of that. But during my time of need, there were people who surprisingly wasn't there. I was like, wow. And I wasn't even upset about it. It was like, for me, it was just a great filtering process where I'm like, well, thank you. At least I know now. So it's made me become more mindful with where I put my energy and my time as well. Because sometimes you could spend so much time with people, give them time, and this time doesn't come back to you. It just gets deleted and it's gone. It's gone. It's in the abyss. And all that time could be used to other stuff or other people that would appreciate you. But yeah, the experience has really made me want to shuffle my direction with what I do in the fitness space. I'm not just like working with people who just want to get jacked and ready for competitions and that sort of thing. I'm more focused on helping with people that are struggling, to be fair. Like, I've got that real empathy inside me. I've got that feeling inside me where I can really resonate with those people and speak the same language. I've most recently been working in partnership with someone on a fitness retreat. Like, every couple of months or so, I'll be going to a retreat in a couple of weeks. And the people that attend these retreats are from middle age and above, and many of them have ailments and just physical limitations. And for me, it's quite exciting. I feel like I can work with you, and I know that you need my help, and I can talk with passion when I'm helping these people. So that's more the direction I want to be working on, like people with ailments, sicknesses, struggling, people that might not, I don't know, may have given up on life a little bit. And also men who have been struggling with low testosterone. Because after my surgery, my testosterone got lower and lower and lower, and I never understood what low testosterone felt like before in my entire life. Didn't even know what that was. When people said, you get depressed when your testosterone is low. I'm like, well, just hit the gym. Your test will go back up. Stop giving excuses.
Right.
So when I came out of hospital, I went straight to the gym. I couldn't even walk properly. I was hobbling to the gym, just hobbling. Went there. Workouts were rubbish, but I was determined. And rather than me putting on muscle, I was just like noticing that I was becoming a bit watery in the face and just a bit bubbly, just a bit round, and I couldn't quite understand. And then I noticed that random times during the day I was getting this sudden burst of heat. I was just hot. I was like, oh my God, why am I so hot? And I'll just start sweating and then it will disappear. I'm like, this is some crazy stuff right now. So I decided to Google search like what's going on. I later found out it was something to do with low testosterone. So I was like, I better speak to the doctor about this. Went to the doctor, had a blood test, and they said they'll give me the results in a couple of weeks. I went to the hospital. I said, like, what's it reading? They said, it's very low. It's 3.2 nanomoles. So for nanograms per deciliter, I guess that's what the States use. It was about 100 or less than 100.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're how old? How old are? What's your age?
I'm 46.
Yeah, so they want you at least above 500, and 800 to 1,000 is kind of like the sweet zone for people, just from a point of reference. So you're literally 8 to 10 times where you would expect someone, and I would say someone that looks like you do would probably be more towards the 1,200, like 1,000 to 1,200. You would expect would probably your natural rate. Which would be on the higher end.
Yeah.
People who carry the type of muscle that you do, that's what you'd be used to be. That's probably what your baseline was, right?
My baseline was probably, it was around 600-700 on average before, but I was just able to hold on to a lot of muscle. My body was just, even when I had put on all this fat, people said, like, you look pretty much the same. But I noticed the difference, physically and mentally as well. My head was, I couldn't think straight. I had brain fog. I was exhausted every day. I had no drive, no motivation to do anything. I didn't feel depressed. I just felt just like depleted, just depleted. And so spoke to a doctor, and I had to be prescribed exogenous testosterone. So I'm currently on 0.4 milliliters a week. That works out to 100 milligrams. So, I've been natty all my life. And then when they said I need to take testosterone, I'm like, oh no. another element of positioning, right? It's like, oh no, how does this reflect back on me, right? Yeah, the what I've been educating people over the years. One thing I did mention though to people was that if I get of a certain age where I feel I need testosterone, then I will share it.
Yeah.
However, this wasn't even an age thing. It was a medical thing.
Yep.
So being left with no choice, I was like, right, okay, let's go for it. And then I noticed the body fat starting to drop. Yeah. But before the body fat, my head, it felt like I took some caffeine because I could think straight. I was like, oh my God, I'm fat, but I feel better and I'm happy.
Let's talk about that, because I think that's an important thing. Years ago, my coach at the time, Scott Abel, who was one of the top bodybuilding coaches in the world, and he was also well known in the drug world, and I took him on just without it. I said, hey, I want you to coach me without the drugs, which he did. He questioned my decision, but he said, hey, I'll go do that experiment. And he wrote a beautiful article about 15 years ago about what low testosterone feels like for men and how to determine. Like he's always been ahead of the game and kind of explaining it before. And he shared about it because he had came off all his anabolics and then started using TRT as a replacement therapy later on. But he explained it in really great detail of what that feels. And he talked about the mental fog, the lack of drive, puffiness, body fat coming on easily, all those elements. How quickly did that reverse for you or just start to change? Like, what was that journey like? Because I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool because you're coming at this from a total natural guy. Then you go through this major, cancer thing or whatever, which is super depleting on the system. You're not coming back to where you want. You're like, okay, I need to make this jump, which is both an identity. You've had two identity transformations during this process. One, I'm a health guy. That gets blown out the window. Second, I'm a natural guy. Okay, that gets blown out the window. Now you're moving into this thing, and you're pivoting on this and evolving, and then you've got a brand attached and all this sort of stuff. So you're going through all that stuff. But what did it feel like internally? You started like, I'm fat and I'm happy. Like, what was that journey of coming back to, appropriate testosterone levels?
After feeling this physical pain, when the doctor said to me, "We need to put you on exogenous testosterone," I was like, I don't really want to, but I feel like I've got no choice. So let's just do it. And then I had an appointment to go back to the hospital. They gave me a jab, and I would say within maybe 48 hours, I woke up and I didn't feel super low. And even just that, I was like, oh, I actually feel a bit better. Just from that moment, I felt like I appreciated life. I really did, And then that was one shot, which was for a month. And then after that, my job was to go back to the hospital so they could give me like a weekly prescription, which I would self-administer myself. And then
you do shots, creams. What's your
shots? So I was looking into different ones. Initially, they told me all the different ones. They said you could have the shot, which you have once a month. You can have a shot, which you have once a week, or you can apply a gel daily. And I was like, do you know what? I think I'll go for the gel. And they said, okay, well, we just need to let you know that if you have the gel on your skin and you are hugging your daughter, then it might actually affect her hormones. I was like, okay, I'll go for the jab. Give me the jab. That was it. I was like, hell no. They said something about it stimulating her period early. I was like, no. Give me the jab. I would rather go through the pain of the jab. But when I started to look online and learn about what was the best course of, cycle of testosterone, the weekly jab seemed to be the best one. Or if you could break it down even more, then it's going to be more in sync with your natural hormones. So, I went with the jab. And as I was taking it every week, I was feeling better and better and more energetic. But other things changed as well, because I might have failed to mention when I was at the bottom end of my testosterone at 3.2, I was struggling to sleep as well. Like, it affects your sleep. You just don't sleep properly. You wake up every hour or two, and then you've got the hot flashes, waking up, going to sleep, waking up. So you wake up tired. But this time I was sleeping all the way through, waking up feeling energetic, and I felt like my body was just like, I could feel it responding, and the body fat going down. There was a stage where like I was wearing like quadruple XL bottoms and tops, and it's something that I'd never done before, and then eventually these tops were starting to get really loose, so I was very happy about that. And then the snoring, I had some crazy snoring during the night. That stopped. Even the snoring would wake me up. It was that loud.
Right.
That stopped. And then, and then I just saw my body just getting tighter and tighter. And then when I was going back to the hospital, because I have to go for regular checkups, the body weight was going down, but then it got to a point where it was just kind of hovering. And it was around 112, 113 kilos. And now I'm just stuck at around 110 kilos. And I've never looked so good. Like, I'm vascular. I've always been quite vascular, but I've gained another 7 kilos of muscle, which I probably wouldn't have been able to do before. So what surprised me was that the doctor said, we're going to give you low dose testosterone. 0.4 a week. That's nothing.
That's nothing.
Nothing. 100 milliliters. I know guys who are on 300-400, some even higher. I'm on 100.
Well, the standard pro is somewhere around 2,000 a week. You know, just to give a reference point of, you know, I'm down here at Gold's Gym here in Venice Beach, California, and you know, that's the baseline plus a cornucopia of everything else. You know.
Exactly. Whenever I get my blood reading, it normally hovers in nanograms per deciliter about 1,000 or 1,100 on such a small amount. So I'll get people who are messaging me saying like, what else are you taking? I'm like, I'm not taking anything else. That is all I'm taking. They're like, oh, you're obviously lying. You're on something else. I'm like, no, 0.4. They're like, no, you must be taking at least a whole meal or 2 meals. I'm like, no. So I'm just like, it's probably because I've been, you know, natural all my life. My body is like, thank you. We'll take some of that.
It's got the receptors for it. You know, Ronnie Coleman talked about that. So Ronnie Coleman, you know, 8-time Mr. Olympia, and probably what arguably the greatest Mr. Olympia of all the groups out of it. And he was training in Texas, and he won Mr. Texas while being a pizza delivery driver, and then went to the national championships. And they introduced testing because there's the Mr. Universe pass, so he went down there. And he placed 5th, but the other 4 guys failed the test. So he went to the Mr. Universe and won the Mr. Universe. And I've been to that contest, the IFBB Mr. Universe. I competed in that contest. And I can tell you that the boys in that contest were not natural. I went to the contest natural, and it was not competitive. And he came back from winning that, and he was hanging out with Flex Wheeler. And Flex Wheeler said to him, well, what's your stack? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, no, like, what do you want? He's like, I'm not on anything, you know? And he's like, and the guy's like, what? And no one believed him. So he said, you know, when he started using, he felt the difference for him is he just got harder and more vascular. For him, it didn't make it. Now, keep in mind, genetics do play a role, but I think if you stack the background like you have like you said, for these years of training, these years of patterns, these years of stuff, that little bit, those baseline fundamentals now get amplified exponentially, even after a serious illness. You know, your body's ripe. Your body's ripe for that, and that's the element if you're playing the long-term game. I've always kicked around the can about, you know, when's the time that I would go to TRT myself. I was going to ask. I haven't done that yet, and you know, hoping to still have another child. I had a son 15 months ago, which is great. Congrats. And I was like, okay, I'd like to get one more, and then it would probably be after that. Because some of those things that you mentioned, I notice I'm not the same guy I was at 35. I'm not the same guy I was at 45, and now I'm getting a little bit closer to 55, and I'm like, yeah, I'm still doing okay, you know. My friend Paul Check, he's 10 years older than me. He's on nothing, looks amazing, fantastic, lives a pristine lifestyle, just an all-around superstar individual. He's kind of like the pinnacle of natural health of anybody I've ever met. And he lives on a compound. He's grounding every day. He's doing Tai Chi. He only eats pristine food. He's got his own, like he's spending a lot of time, effort, and energy to maintain that. But he's one of the few guys that I know that has a phenomenal physique, a phenomenal mind, and hasn't tipped over that. Most of the people that people are listening to, in the health industry that are guys that are over 35. Most of them are using TRT or other elements, peptides and things like that to enhance their physiques or their cognition or their capabilities. And I just say that to people because oftentimes they'll talk about a various supplement or a biohack or whatever, but they don't reveal all of the other side of the things that they might be doing in the background. And I find that's a little bit disingenuous for people. I think that's where you're in a unique place. You've been sharing exactly what you've been doing for a long time. Like, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm advocating for. Then you go through the cancer situation, then you come out of that, and then you got the low T situation, and here you are on that. And so you're continuing to evolve through the years and challenges of your life. And I think that's an important mindset for people to have moving forward. Life's going to hit you. The pain train's coming for everybody, you know. Eventually everybody gets sick, eventually, you know, or has a tragic accident or, you know, dies suddenly, unfortunately. But if you survive the calamity, you're going to have to pivot who you are mentally, externally, and leverage these things. What are maybe some other elements that you've noticed or experienced, or things that you're doing now that you're, as you look towards the future? How do you see your health and routine evolving over the future?
A lot more meditation, to be honest. I was meditating before, but like now it's definitely a center part of everything I do. You know, I'll meditate in the morning and then I'll pray. Sometimes I'll take random moments to pray during the day, meditate in the morning and in the evening. That's like standard before I do anything, you know. And it's given me a sense of peace, and I think that's really important to, you know, balance your autonomic nervous system, and, you know, reduce inflammation in the body. In terms of other practices, health practices, I probably don't train as aggressively as I did before. I felt like I had to always test my strength with getting stronger and stronger. And I think there was a moment I was like, okay, I'm now using testosterone. I should take advantage of that. Right. So I did test my strength on a few things, and I do feel like I'm a bit stronger. You know, like I'll do like 180 bench and I'll do like maybe 8 to 10 reps. Whereas before I'd possibly do 1. Squeeze out a 1 or a 2. And I'm like, holy smokes. I could be dangerous in here, but I'm like, okay, just hold on to that superpower, all right? So, yeah, I don't need to be aggressive. I just want longevity, you know? Yeah, that's it, really. Just be healthy and live at peace.
You bring up a reminder of, you know, after 18 years in the sport of bodybuilding, I got into Bill Pearl, who wrote, he had a book, Keys to the Inner Universe, and then Beyond the Universe. And Bill Pearl had an amazing bodybuilding career over the span of 20 years. Every 5 years, he would come out and wipe out the competition and go back into his barn in Oregon. And in fact, when he came out for the 71 NABBA Mr. Universe contest, he challenged all of the bodybuilders of the era, in which Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of the bodybuilders of that era. And although Arnold wanted to compete against him, Joe Weider, who was not the head of the NABBA, he was head of the IFBB Mr. Universe, refused to let Arnold compete in that contest because he was concerned that Bill Pearl at 41 years old was going to beat him. So they never got to compete. And Bill talks about it in the book. He said, I really wanted to take on Arnold because I thought he was the fiercest competitor ever, and I would have liked to have had that challenge. In his book, Beyond the Universe, he talks about training for longevity. And he said, yeah, you always want to leave the gym feeling like you got a little bit left in the tank. Of course, he passed away a little over a year ago, I guess it was, maybe 2 years ago now. But he was up into his 90s and looked fabulous and lived his lifestyle, you know, consistently, and meditation and peacefulness and making sure there was enough for tomorrow was a big part. And I think that's one of the, if there's one thing I think people need to recognize as they age, and they're in this health game, and you've built a platform of excellence where you could really go and push. As you get older, the trade-off of that pushes often can lead to injury or set you back or lead to other things. And my coach, when I was competing at the Universe a few years back, when I was 50, I thought I'd see if I could make a comeback at 50 and see what that was like. First off, before I get ready for a contest in like 20 weeks, that one took me 18 months. You know, like, so the body just didn't respond as quickly as it used to kind of get into contest condition for me. So that was an interesting, you know, it took me a year to get in shape really, but to go to that world championship, it took me another 6 months. And then I went out and did some running. I went and ran a marathon after. Right. Which I don't advise. That was a mistake. It took me about a year to recover from both of those components because I pushed myself a little bit beyond, and I didn't quite listen to his advice. Like I wanted to push myself in the bodybuilding world. I said, well, I can't win the bodybuilding contest, but there's not many bodybuilders that run marathons, so I could do that. So I did both of those things to experience it, and I learned unequivocally that the extremes the trade-offs aren't worth it, as Bill Pearl advised. And so now I try to leave the gym with a little bit left in the tank, feel like a little bit due tomorrow, and I go back the next day. So that consistency of the routine and staying within that parameter that you don't have to redline everything has been a big thing.
That's perfect, man. That's exactly what I do. In fact, I didn't train today and I didn't train yesterday. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to take a break for a couple of days and use my PEMF, use the sauna, some breathing exercises, and I'll go back tomorrow. That's cool, you know?
And it's hard. It's hard for someone when you're known, or you built a life of pushing yourself in that living to switch that. And I think that's where meditation comes in, right? Mm-hmm. Is to kind of cultivate that internal awareness and that I'm good, you know, I'm good. Or maybe today I'm going to give it a little bit extra today. I got the juice. Like how would you feel meditation for you? And if you have a particular style that you do or anything, how do you feel that's influence and informing you as you look at your centenarian club? You know,
it helps me to feel grounded. To be fair, it just it stops all the movement and the rushing of life happening. It just helps me to feel still, and I feel like whilst I am still, I can rebuild. I feel like my body can now recuperate. It's almost like pulling in source energy in my body and allowing me to do much more in a shorter space of time. It's just powerful. I think it's amazing. And, you know, after I meditate, then I feel like I'm stronger and the better words come out when I want to pray as well. So I'll meditate and pray and I'm sorted. I just feel like that is going to be one of the pillars for my health leading forward. Meditation, I don't think anything beats it, to be honest with you. It's like another form of training, like it's spiritual training, you know, building up your spiritual muscles. I'd suggest anyone to do it.
So before we wrap up, what's the future looking like? Where do people reach you? How do they find out more, follow you, track you? What's the next stage in the journey for Roger?
Me. So, as I've mentioned earlier, the key focus is helping men with like low testosterone, people who have ailments. So I am helping people who have any kind of like functional disfigurement, like any kind of diseases, issues that they're going through in life, and trying to help to optimize their health. So one of the things that I've been focusing on most recently is something which I call the Optimized Life Health Plan, where it's like a training program, but at the same time I help them with like nutrition training, but I also have a look at their blood work as well and work out a diet which will help to optimize their health and optimize their hormones. Because I feel like that is like one of the key things when it comes to human beings, is to from the way they're feeling and the way their body responds. So, you know, my goal is to help to give them the key nutrients so that they're getting the outlook which they want, whether it's more energy, better hormones, lose body fat, or increase lean tissue. So that's one thing I'm working on. There's also the retreats which I've been working on as well. If anyone who wants to go on a fitness retreat, they can hit me up and I can tell them all the details they need or forward a link to them to sign up if they're interested. It's mainly for people that are not super fit. If you're a really fit person, it's probably not for you. If you're a person who might be in your maybe 60s and a bit older, that's the sort of crowd which we have there. You know, might have problems walking, have osteoarthritis, high blood pressure, all types of things, feeling like you're broken, then you can join this camp and we can help you out. So
where do people find you? What's your handle? How do they reach you?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. The name's Roger Snipes, ROGERSNIPES. Instagram is what I use most of the time. I use X as well. You can DM me on X or Facebook, Roger Snipes.
Any final words you'd like to share with our audience before we wind it up?
Final words. Everybody has a customized approach. Don't follow another person just because they say it's good. I think it's good to do your own research on yourself, your own body. Everyone's got this idea of what is the best way to lose body fat, what's the best way to become educated, but everybody has different multi-sensory learning modalities. We've got different training methods that work for our individual bodies. I would suggest to spend some time to get to know yourself so that you make the most best informed decisions.
Well said. There you have it, folks. The amazing Roger Snipes, finally, after an incredible journey through what some people would say is a devastating diagnosis of cancer, living stronger, planning on living longer. Look at that bicep. There you go. probably the most jacked cancer patient in the history of the planet right there, folks. So I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank all our listeners today. And, you know, maybe there's you or someone you know that's got a bad diagnosis, that's going through a challenge in your life. Tap into Roger's channel, you know, get that inspiration. Find out what you can do to take advantage of it and to go through that process. He's been there. He's walked through the valley of death, and he's come out looking fantastic, and you can too. That's our message today. I want to thank you for joining us on the podcast. I'm Wade T. Lightheart from Bioptimizers. This is the Awesome Health Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip, rapid cheat meal relief. Research shows that cheat meals can actually be an effective way to boost your metabolism. One key weight loss hormone, leptin, can be increased by up to 30% following a cheat meal. The challenge with the cheat meals is that all those extra calories and lower food quality can be hard to digest, which means you could be totally sidelined with a food coma after big cheat meals. The solution is to take strong digestive enzymes like masszymes, which will help rapidly digest and break down the extra food. 3 to 5 capsules before or right after your cheat meal can make a huge difference in how you feel following the cheat meal. If it's a cheat day with multiple large meals, you might want to go up to 10 capsules or higher to help you power through all that food. To save 10% on Masszymes, go to masszymes.com. That's MASSZYMES.com and enter the code CHEAT10 at checkout.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.